The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform and any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. And finally, you'll get a free recorded audio training that will install unbelievable attitudes for success and wipe out any limiting beliefs. So if you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Welcome to the Influencer's Edge. This is the place where you come to get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques to leapfrog over the pack in sales, persuasion, and influence. Be sure you visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com. And while you're there, subscribe to us via your favorite network. Now sit back, tune in, and enjoy today's episode. Welcome back to the Influencer's Edge. Today, all our episodes are great and fantastic because we only get the best guests, and I'm an amazing interviewer. That's just the way it goes. But our guest today is Simon Hedley, who's, first of all, most amazing thing about Simon is he has a British accent. So right there, he's 100% better than anybody. Simon, where are you joining us from today?
Today, I'm joining you, Paul, from Royal Tunbridge Wells, Kent, in England, the UK.
Okay, cool. Love the UK to visit. Let me read it. Now, I met Simon through a mutual friend, Igor Kefetz, who's been on my show before. So that was really fun. It was great to meet you. I knew right away I had to get you on the podcast. Let me read your bio very briefly. I probably won't go through the whole thing. No. Simon Hedley is known by his select clients as the strategic alchemist. Ooh-wee. So as Jed Clampett used to say on the Beverly Hillbillies, I'm dating myself here. What in the world do you mean by alchemist? You don't turn lead into gold, do you?
Well, you can do that, but no, it's meant in a very grounded sense. One of my background is a lot of Asian and especially Taoist work. I'm a Tai Chi master, Tai Chi student, 25, 30 years, gold medalist, 96. So often when they'd have the generals and the emperors, they'd have somebody who's an advisor, and they call it a Taoist alchemist or a Taoist alchemist. The person is a little nudging something and makes all the difference. But let's just be grounded for the Western audience. When you make a cake, you take the ingredients, you mix them, that mother's love in the oven, and you get that amazing cake, right? The cake is not the ingredients. When you and I met, it wasn't like, hello, Simon, hello, Paul, boom, boom, boom. It was like, wait a minute. And it's like beyond simplicity, beyond you could predict it. And suddenly that magical stuff that happens that in life makes all the difference. So I like those little small, seemingly nothing differences that I know make all the differences. If you know NLP in that world, that metaphysical layer, the ontological layer. So I can go very banking and business. I can go into martial arts and go into marketing. I can go strategic alchemy and other consultancy. I can get over hours, Paul, very quickly. But the point is there's like different disciplines have come together. Now, I used to just say I was a consultant, and they go, what in? You go, what do you need? So we tried to create a name that is the right thing for the right people, and the right people go, I love it. And you might know a book by Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, if you don't know that book.
I've heard it many times. I've never read it.
100% worth reading. And I think in different worlds, you talk about a wisdom keeper, a supreme fool. I'm just somebody that likes to learn and share and help when we can. And there's no ego here. I can pretend to have an ego, but really,
I love
I'm a white guy. I've lost my hair. It's all good.
I'm not far behind you, my friend. I'm not far behind you. I love it. I love exactly what you said. Let's keep going. For over 2 decades, he's been primarily working by referral. That is a great thing for an entrepreneur to achieve. So you don't have to do social media marketing and all that other BS. It's such a drain. And often privately behind the scenes as Simon X. Sounds like something from James Bond. Good for you. I like that. I like
And
it
I
both.
should say, Paul, it was a silent X. It comes from lots of love, Simon X, right?
Oh,
And they go, "You're the Simon X guy." Like it's just Simon, it's a kiss. But no, I was. It literally everything from Ministry of Defense, government banking, interesting projects. My friend calls it, but it's everything, right? Like eventually everything is people and systems and tools, and you audit and authenticate. So when you say they haven't done the web stuff, I've been prolific on the web for over 2 decades, but mainly testing systems and tools and people to see what works and what doesn't work in the micro and the macro.
wow, you're more systems oriented
Very
than I
much
am.
so.
It's very interesting. Interesting. So you've had the military work with you. How about the intelligence communities?
Do we have any of those out there?
You know what I'm talking about. MI6, CIA in my case,
Well,
that
I think
sort of.
I half joke about it. I was in Puerto Rico with a friend of ours, Davin. I'm on a cruise, literally on holiday, and somebody over a whiskey and a cigar starts talking about his work with the CIA, and you're like going, "You shouldn't really be telling me this." So, occasionally people talk a lot, and I listen and I try and be helpful.
Okay, I've been told that intelligence agencies have used my stuff. I've been directly told by someone who's been involved in that kind of project. So,
Well, I'll be more direct. I've definitely advised people who have national security clearance, UK, US, and around. One of my best friends was a UN Special Forces guy, but I also live in a world where I don't work for any government in that way. And I've been contracted, not a spy. I have a domain name, Paul, got me in trouble, thesuperspy.com. It's a movie project, boys and girls. Okay. So web domination, super spy, it was movies. I'm not a spy. I'm British on British soil. It's all good. I'm just here
now
to help
all
people.
spies are trained to deny that they're spies. So I don't
You
believe
can't
you.
win right at that point. It's like you are
You
one. Like
can't
I'm really not.
win. Only the true Messiah denies his divinity from Monty Python.
The knights that say knee.
Yeah, you shall not pass. This
Sorry,
is
you did say to
if you're
have
not
some fun
familiar,
today, right? So yeah, no, if
we're
you know
already having
Monty
fun.
Python, that sort of world, the Goon Show, that was my happy space. Unfortunately, most of the world doesn't get British humor, British sarcasm. I'll give you we're not going to explain why, Paul, but when my friend wears a t-shirt with the world's best chicken on it, some people laugh. Let's move on from that. They'll come back. If they get it, they'll get it.
Yeah, I love this. You can think of him as a secret weapon for good people doing great things. I really like that orientation that
Yeah,
you helping people who have a good heart.
yeah.
And that was my orientation as Ross Jeffries, the seduction pickup guru. And it's still my orientation today. Good on you, mate.
And I want to interject something with you if I can. There's a
Yeah.
great show I love called Futurama, a cartoon. No Futurama?
Yes. Oh, yes.
And there's an episode where Bender is out in space and meets God. And God says, when you do it right, it's like done nothing at all. The ideal goal is nobody ever knew you gave the kid the Christmas present. You just get the good things done very quietly, no ripples. And it's not about us, never was, right?
I love this. This is very Zen.
A
I
little
like
bit.
Zen and the emphasis on meditation and flow because
Yeah.
we begin to see that things are not fixed. Everything is in flow. This we could go into Zen and all of that for
Well,
the rest.
and just for those listeners who may not be used to it, you actually can do open eye meditation 24/7. So, like literally right now, I'm speaking to you while meditating while breathing as well. So, this is where in the trading floor, the banking world, the martial world, the business worlds, everything becomes that mindset space of being present. The old state about if you can keep your head rather than losing theirs. It's not like Templarism, but it's samurais, martial art training, trading floors. That presence in the moment is so vital. And
Is
most of
that
the West doesn't understand that stuff.
Simon in a world that's overstimulated, in a world where I say we're orbiting the dark star of narcissism and ADDHD? Can that skill that you just talked about, I know and skill sort of says, yes, it can be taught. Do you really think that that can be taught to people? And do you teach this to your clients?
Yes, 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 maybe. So when I was growing up, I got asked a question and I'd go, yes, no, maybe, like that. Yes, no, maybe. That was the answer. There's always yes, no, maybe, right? There's a great guy who's suddenly passed away. He'd always say, at best, your information is incomplete and at worst, inaccurate, right?
Yes, I
So,
used to say that.
and I was talking to Nick earlier, my friend, ex-commando guy. Um, there's a thing called hubris and nemesis in ancient Greeks. Whenever you're like, I've got it, Ross, I've got the answer, Paul, I know what I'm doing, the universe will go, are you sure? Bang, and reality kicks you out, right? That learning, growing we have as we live the journey. So I think you can be with it. One of my friends loves really quite strong rock music. So when you first hear it, it's like, this is so intense. But after a while, it calms you down. I love salsa dancing. 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3. When you first hear it, it's really quick. Then you hear the slow rhythm. So if you can become internally referenced, in theory, it doesn't matter. However, most of us are human. We have attachments. We learn and grow. I went through serious health challenges. My stomach got cut out permanently last year. It was
Talk to us,
scary.
talk to
So
us
the
a little bit
theory,
about that, about
yeah,
how that, not the medical side of it, I don't
yeah.
care. But you have been very vulnerable right up front here and said it was scary. How did you deal with the fear?
I don't think I dealt with it. I think I roller coasted it, right? And that sort of skill set, like a Swiss Army knife, I reached out to my mum, my friends. I'm a big believer in what we call scientific mysticism. So I know the science, right? This isn't my phone in a
Yes.
case, right? So I literally had a friend that does like healing crystal stuff, and I had other people who advance research stuff. Some of it through your hypno NLP people, timeline, future pacing, staying positive, boom, boom, boom. Some of it, weirdly, is facing the worst of it. Some of it, there's a book I think how to stop. I forget the first line. How to stop worrying is the end of it line. But some of it was going, you know what? The worst is X, Y, Z. And if that happens, then what I want to do? Now, it's not the first time I've had to face that, sadly. Um, so for me, it's not a new conversation, but truthfully, it was very challenging because I know what I'm here to do isn't complete. There's people I really want to help, people I love and care about. So I had to be with that gap. And that I think is often our biggest fear as humans, that sort of regret feeling, which Jim Rohn would say weighs tons. So I'd say very badly is the answer to Sean. How did you handle it? Very badly. It was not fun, but thankfully, some amazing friends and truthfully amazing medical practitioners. And actually, ironically, this sort of alchemy stuff I talk about, I reached out to an old uni friend for a chat about something completely different and happened just to mention it. And he goes, funny you say that. Talk to my friend James. James had had 4 of these surgeries. He had a permanent stoma. And he and I had a conversation, human to human, brother to brother, that actually allowed me to go, you know what? Different perspective. I'm not alone. And that helps. So I'm a big believer that talking and listening can help. I get more into it and that sort of Hawaiian stuff, the kahuna work. But
I'm
truthfully,
well
everything I
aware of it.
could, yeah, everything
I'm
I
well
could.
aware of it.
Yeah.
Well aware. Interesting that you talk about this. This is something I learned from my friend who's in the intelligence community, that one of the primary skills is making the distinction and learning how to exercise perspective as opposed to perception. Perception is the way you're interpreting the world and you don't recognize it. It isn't the truth.
Yeah.
Perspective is the ability to step outside of that, look at other people's ways of viewing things, and take on a way of viewing things that's more, that gives you what they say in NLP, requisite variety, the ability to have more freedom. The name of the game is not one thing or the other, but it's the freedom to
Yeah.
have choice. This is amazing, in-depth conversation that I love. Didn't expect it, but this is
This is the
for
good
me.
stuff, right? And also to be real, what weirdly helped was the person I'd normally go to, not as a crutch, but that like support structure. They basically, for whatever reason, went, I'm out. Now they've, it's no happy face. It allowed me to have to get differently resourceful. So rather than going, no problem, I'm there, whatever happens, I'll be there for you. They're like, I'm not there for you. At which point I had to face it differently. And it was really challenging, not fun at all, but it meant different things opened up. And I went in, honestly, not thinking I'd wake up. So literally I went in with that realization, I'm not here tomorrow. And in that moment, you could go crazy or you get a clarity about, you know what, this is what matters. Now that echoes, you've been around military people, human people, we're all been around these things. You know, when I'm definitely not cooked. You know what I mean? Like this isn't like I have the answer, Paul, but
Good.
it was definitely part of this life-changing process that's been a 46-year roller coaster with highs and lows, and you couldn't make it up moments, and
It's so
which now
truthful.
bring us to here today, right?
It's so truthful. People who are just peddling nonsense say it's always going to be positive and be positive and be happy.
Yeah,
This is denying the reality of human suffering and totally painting out of the picture, covering over the need for courage and compassion for
Yeah.
others and for yourself. This is,
We,
and
you told me I could be a bit direct, right? So one of
yeah,
my biggest bugbears is there's a story which is a misinterpretation of old wisdom, which is there's a space beyond right or wrong. I'll meet you there, the Sufi wisdom. But they make that mean there is no right and wrong. Now it's always perspective, it's always a choice. But I'm very clear, like a moral human, like bio level. I go no and yes. Now there is cultural. Clearly, what is approved, there's a nature nurture conversation. We can get very creative with our creativity and go, well, what if this, and this? But at a core level, in this bodiment, this lifetime, I'm okay with this. I'm not okay with this. And we can change and we can adapt. But there's some core stuff. I'll keep it light for the phone call. But like, you don't F with cats, you don't F with kids. There's a line of like, don't mess. And I deliberately labeled that like, I know, right? And so there's a whole line of be good, don't break, whatever that is. And that's part of, I think, the human dynamic. So there's a process around thoughts creating reality and all that stuff we can get into.
we were
Right.
going to get, I was going to go there.
But I think when you talked about the BS, one of the problems is up until now, I've literally been told, do not communicate who you are, what you know, and why you know it. Allow them to keep doing what they're doing. And you and I know in the marketing space, in the persuasion space, well, no, because it's not my place. I was on holiday in the States, right? On holiday in America. I'm not there working. And I may have noticed some people breaking the rules, Paul. May have noticed that, right? Hypothetically. When I may have mentioned that to somebody whose job is to handle that, they may have gone, that's not possible, sir. And I'm sitting there going, kind of is, right? But they didn't want to know. Now, either they generally believe it's not possible or generally don't give an F. Today, Nick and I, my friends in the room with me, somebody literally went, I don't give an F. And that, I think, is the core of it. People forget to actually care. And when we stop collaborating, communicating as humans, it gets messed up. Now, we all have good days and bad days. Things happen, right? But that bit of a core caring for somebody else beyond the shirt, the glasses, the t-shirt, the lighting, the money, the pockets. I'll keep it, trying to keep it light for you, Paul. A bit of fun today, boys and
You
girls.
don't need to.
I know.
It is bringing up for me why I detest Napoleon Hill and people of that ilk. Just hear me out for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
If you beat, I just can't stand these anymore. I won't go to these motivational make money manifestation things. Napoleon Hill is Jesus, and his book, Think and Grow Rich, is the Bible, and you dare not criticize it. But I go to these things, this whole idea that your thoughts create your reality. Tell that to the millions of African mothers who are begging and praying for food to feed their children. If you dare tell me that the 6 million Jews who were murdered by Hitler created that,
Or
I
it was
will
their
punch you in the
choice. It was
face.
that they came in to have that experience so that we could have this conversation.
It
And I
totally,
yeah,
if I could, it totally takes away the human responsibility to say, no, this is evil. I'm going to step up and stop it and
correct. Yeah.
stop it and stop it. And this goes back to my point. This entire Western culture, well, I can't speak to the UK. I can only speak to the United States, is orbiting that dark star of narcissism and ADHD, and that social media is contributing to that in a massive way. I had a friend who was my attorney at the time, and he said, back in the 50s and early 60s, it was okay to be middle class. It was okay to just work your job, have this home and a family. People didn't need to be superstars and famous and be super wealthy. And I think it's one thing to have a healthy message for self-improvement. It's another thing when it leans over into narcissism, and even as far as to say you are the only thing that creates reality and everything else is just a projection of who you are. But you're bringing up great
Well,
metaphysical.
let's just explore that a bit, right? And there's always this sort of duality space and beyond. Have you ever driven a car on a skid plane? Ever had
Yeah.
advanced driving training?
Yes.
So when you're going into the skid, you're advised to like look where you want to go, not at the problem area, right?
Mm.
So there is a bit where, again, the words are a pointer at a conversational like paradigm frame. which is situational and personal. So what you touched on about, I'm agreeing very much what you're saying. There's like a plussing. Um, it's very easy to have a bad model and get stuck into the negative energy space, right? Like, oh my God, I want to make $1. It's not possible, boom, 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 versus getting into that question space of how would that be possible? Who could I learn from? Getting resourceful, right? So
I
I
get
think
it.
that's where worrying doesn't really help. It's like the old Native American indigenous thing about the two wolves, and the one that wins is the one that sort of you feed. So we're having quick metaphor conversations. You can go Google it, find that stuff out. But
Well,
it's that topic of free will, choice, what we've just been talking about. But at a core level, some of us, men, women, boys, girls around the world, are very clear this is okay and this isn't. And a crutch of my biggest dilemma, Paul, for my entire life is if I love you, but disagree fundamentally with what you believe is right and wrong, how do we manage that? How do we find a way to like not get into competition and fighting?
and this is no longer possible in the United States. We're so polarized, and so if you don't agree with me, you're a bad person. I cut you off as a friend. It's impossible to have a democracy anymore with this kind of orientation. I believe it's been deliberately created and encouraged and fueled to keep us apart and to destroy our democracy. That's
Yeah.
my own. This is fascinating how we're going into ontology and philosophy and somewhat
And
into
it's all trying to answer the question of what do you mean by strategic alchemist? And I spent 20, 30 years studying, learning, teaching, master teaching, working with those teachers, usually at source. Um, and then at a certain point, you learn to model, you learn to explore, you learn to create your own distinctions. And worse, you start to realize the people you think were these pure form teachers aren't. And we'll share that just for fun, right? So what does practice make? Practice makes, and if you said perfect, you're wrong, but notice you said it. If you think I'm wrong for saying that, that's okay, but just try on that possibly what you practice doesn't make it perfect, but it might
no.
make it permanent. And that's a quick example where you and I have watched rooms going, practice makes perfect, and they've been hardwiring poor form. Now, one of the things about communication, you and I are learning to dance in comms across time and space, or I'm in the UK or in the States. But communication is supposed to be this two-way listening, dancing, flowing thing. But often it becomes this point attacking, my point, your point, adversarial communication. That's not very helpful. And really, communication in the British way, and I'm very British, isn't the words, it's the space, it's the spin, it's the context. Like I go, Paul, I hate your t-shirt, mate. Absolutely hate it, which means I love it. And you're like, but the word said this. My friend Dylan, who's actually ex-American, let's say services, very smart cookie, he taught me how Japanese people actually ask the window to get closed. And it isn't by saying close the window. I might go, Paul, are you cold? And my brain literally was like, wait a minute. They would teach us as a foreigner how to say, please close the window, but they would never dare in polite society to communicate that
Yes.
way to each other. And it's like,
Yes.
I would never have known.
Yes. Yes. There's a wonderful book by Robert Anton Wilson. I don't know if you're familiar with Robert Anton Wilson. He's one of Richard Bandler's favorite authors. I said one day Bandler and Wilson have to meet. Sure enough, a few years later, Bandler started having Wilson, he was a brilliant writer. He's passed, but a terrible speaker. And he wrote a book called The New Inquisition. And he wrote a book called Prometheus Rising. He also wrote The New Inquisition. But Prometheus Rising, he talks about how their beliefs form reality tunnels.
There you
And
go. Mm-hmm.
and you literally are going to distort, delete, and generalize and not see any other perspective. Now, notice what I said. And Simon, you don't need, I'm talking to the audience. I didn't say your beliefs create reality. If you believe you can stand in front of a train going 100 miles an hour and not be harmed, I will come to your funeral. But rather, your beliefs will filter out and distort and generalize the information you can take in. Now,
Yeah.
where we get into trouble is when we take on the perspective, or we believe that our beliefs are true with a capital T, and they're incumbent upon other people to take them on, or those people are deserving of punishment or being shouted down. Again, we see this in the United States with wokeism and the destruction of free speech. It's destroying the fabric of our society. It's not just something that's individually destructive. It's destroying the fabric
of our society. I don't know if that's what it's probably worse in the UK, the wokeism, and isn't it a hate crime if you say something?
If we just go a bit bigger and meta just for fun, right? Adding on to what you were saying, if somebody feels the core paradigm that keeps them safe is being threatened, they will usually fight tooth and nail to protect it, even when it's known to be wrong. Because you'd rather be in a safe space that's been working than in uncomfortable what happens now space.
Life
So
is not designed for you to feel. There's a distinction between, and you know this, between being physically safe and feeling unoffended.
yeah.
It's a
Well,
safe
and
space.
you're right though. Now, unfortunately, if somebody feels threatened or feels offended or feels it was that communication was from this reason, that is where we start to get in a gray area because feelings are very subjective. I could say, Paul, you offended my very soul. How could you say that to me? You said hello, not good day. Oh, and when you're into that world, you can't win, right? Now, equally, I do think people need some level of intelligent protection from people who are abusive, from people that don't understand boundaries. And there's a fine balance. Again, true story, I'll keep it light. We were on Clubhouse and there was a conversation. I sort of joined Clubhouse very early and somebody asked to speak. And the host said, sorry, not right now, because they were on a break and it was amazing guiding his room. And that person took it as a personal affront to her gender, her race, and the entire thing. And it was proof that, and there's literally people from both sides on both sides, and you're just going, no, he was just holding the room for a friend and being told nobody else can ask questions for 10 minutes, wait till I get back. And what happens, what it makes it mean, and the rest is history. So a lot of the time, it's actually creating that space just to go, 1 second, can we just reset and pause? Okay, what are we doing here? Where are we coming from? Is there any workability? Do we like each other a bit? And then what comes next? I lost friends over the Me Too movement, not about that, because they were so angry. And when you try to ask them, what do you actually want to have happen in your life next? There was no answer, just
No
anger.
answer.
Now, equally, I've had amazing friends because of it. I'm one of the things I love doing, Paul, it's not part of my public CV. I've been teaching self-defense to women for over 25, 30 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, pause. Wonderful. I need to know. So I've thought about this. I'm not a woman for sure, but I am up there in years. If you had to learn self-defense, I've always thought if I were a young man and I needed to learn practical self-defense without killing someone, I'd learn Western boxing, I'd learn Muay Thai, and I'd learn something I could use if the fight goes to the ground, like jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu or whatever. What do you think about that?
I think it's a personal choice and it's a very challenging question because once a fight has actually occurred, from the stuff I've been taught, you've already lost the fight. So what I mean by that is the true martial artist doesn't get in a fight. If it actually gets to the point of physical confrontation, there's a problem. Now, I know, despite everything I've trained in, a 14-year-old kid with a baseball bat I don't see coming can be a problem. Yes, I've done arm breaks and metal breaks, not metal breaks. I've done interesting things, right? But it's a challenging one. So I do think there's a world for practical jujitsu. Personally, what I found really effective was Tai Chi Chuan. So I did taekwondo, eskrima, fence, judo, but I'm only 5'8", Paul, 5'9" at best. I'm not 6'5", right? So I got a very clear reality doing taekwondo. The guy who's 6'5", who was the British champion, he's taller, faster, longer leg reach. It's not really a fair game. So
No.
so I do think you have to feel into it. I do think you have to play with it. I jokingly created a thing called British Foxy Boxing over lockdown, Paul. You ever heard of British Foxy Boxing?
I can guess where it's going, but no, I haven't.
And I'm going to teach you just for fun the ultimate martial art technique. So, Paul, do me a favor, just close your eyes a second for me. Don't do that in a fight.
Got it.
Right? So the ability to be quick on your mind, have the mental ability to be present and communicate with your tongue, which was the samurai's greatest weapon, whether it was hello, oh my God, I'd love to make love to you. I've got syphilis and HIV. Come here, big boy. Right? I could be playful, you said. So the mental creativity in the moment can make all the difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
I pause you and let's close that loop.
Yeah. Sorry, Don.
No, Let me open the loop and then we can close it. You said you teach martial arts to women for the past 25 years, whatever it
Yeah.
is. Where were you going with that thought before I paused you?
I don't think I even remember now. I actually got
Okay.
fully paused and reset.
All right. Sorry
We were
about that.
talking, I think, about communication and safety and other bits and pieces. So, why did we bring that up? Nick, why are we talking about martial arts?
Start with the Me Too movement.
Ah, the Me Too movement, right? So it's been a big thing. I guess the whole thing of freedom to be requires freedom of environments, right? And that's both physical, communication, financial, and really the stand is to be free. How do you actually live free in a free, unfree world? And if people are angry, it gets problematic. Sadly, too many women have recently been taught that there are no strong women. And I found that fascinating because we had a queen for a very, very long time. In fact, we had a British queen with Boadicea. We've had Victoria. I know more female multimillionaires in my life, including my cousin, who's a civilian colonel in the DOA. So I don't understand where the story for 40 years has gone, women are weak and have no power. There are more female billionaires in Asia than the rest of the men around the world.
This is so, listen, this is so apropos. I'm going to be debating as Ross Jeffries, my get laid personality. I'm going to be debating this idiot who's from the UK named Pearl, just Pearly Things. I don't know if you've ever heard of Pearl. She's a female red pillar who goes on and on about how women are stupid. Women can't make good decisions. They go by feelings. Men, only women should not be allowed to vote, all sorts of just fascist ideas.
So remember that thing about everybody's free to have a choice? I'm going, I don't agree with this. This is not how I feel. I think but maybe I'm wrong too. So I could be wrong. I'm open to listening, but also I don't think I am. Yeah.
But what was your statistic? The billionaires in Asia, what percentage?
There are more Asian billionaires. So there's two types of billionaires, Paul, right? You know that thing about there's two types of people in the world, that people that think in two types, people that don't. Bit joke there. So a lot of the billionaires choose to be private. They have sovereign wealth and they don't shout about it. And generally, the women ran the wealth in Asia. It was grandma or auntie who was in charge of deciding where the people did stuff. And it was very much a collective community feeling. So for my, let's say, not official audit, but 20, 30 years of studying this and being in that world, there are more female billionaires with influence over trillions of asset than there are known billionaires in the Western world.
Brilliant. Let's dive into your biography.
I'll give you a reason why that's the case.
Go ahead.
Is it true, Paul, that women usually outlive men?
Yes, generally speaking.
And usually when men die, who inherits their wealth?
The family.
The women, the wife, the spouse. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But on top of that, usually women are good at managing households and managing men because really men are like 2-year-olds in big bodies. So, it makes it easy.
Oh, I don't agree with that. That's sexism. But
until they become, well, no, we're all big boys and small boys. Moving on.
The importance of getting clear with what really matters. We talked about this. Chaos to clarity. You want to talk? We've pretty much covered these things. The success spiral. What do you mean by this terminology of yours, the success spiral?
So it's one of those things I wrote that was I grokked it. Do you know what I mean by grokking a download moment?
Of course, Stranger in a Strange Land, Robert Heinlein. That's one of my favorite novels.
Beautiful book, challenging but beautiful book. So I'm on a train and I'd already been into studying stuff and learning stuff and literally had this so I want you to imagine that there is a path that your life is taking or could take to whatever success for you. When you're more in those states that are open, positive, you tend to more make progress towards what you're looking for. When you're not, you tend to almost repel the very thing you're looking for. It would be like somebody in your old world that is looking to find a great partner and a great wife. And she goes, oh my God, I love your hat. Well, it's not and they get very defensive. That's not likely to keep attracting that partner, right? Some very cunning technique. If they're actually open and have great energy, it sort of encourages those things. So what I've found making even simpler than that is success is not usually a linear path. You and I aren't talking because 6 months ago you went, I want to interview Simon Hedley today. Let's schedule that. Boom, 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 boom. And the precessionary ripples from this conversation, I know that I don't know what they are, but I know there'll likely be some. Unless the recordings get published, something will happen. The conversation you and Nick had earlier, I didn't know that Nick even knew who you were, didn't know I was doing this until I was doing it. And yet I'm fairly sure, Nick, it changed your life for the better this today's conversation.
Yes.
Great. So
Ross
that's what I
Jeffries
mean
is
by it.
Ross Jeffries, not Paul Ross. I don't want him to be. Ross Jeffries is a living legend, a myth, an idea like Batman, as opposed to Bruce Wayne.
You did see my red phone, right?
What am I looking at? Your what? Hold it
I've
up.
got a bat phone here.
You do have a bat phone. Oh, man. Well, you can't see it because I have my corny, cheesy background, but I have a full-on painting of Batman, and I have superhero figurines all over my home. We need to wrap this. This has been I would say it's been by far the most philosophical conversation I've ever had with a guest, and really, really deep. And I hope the audience will watch this multiple times. There's so much wisdom and practical ideas and challenges in this. This has been a fantastic exchange. I want my audience to know how they can stay in the conversation with you, because unless they're brain dead, they're all going to want to. How do they stay in the conversation with you, Simon?
That's a really, really interesting question. The best thing, truthfully, check out the book Chaos to Clarity. You'll find I'm the most easy person to get hold of once you know my name, want to get hold of me. Does that make sense? It's like, it's that guy again. Everybody knows me, but nobody knows that they know me. Does that make sense? So firstly, I've been around, right? From Kardashian TV show, other bits and pieces. So chaostoclarity.com, go get the book, listen to it, read it. And there's a new book coming up called the5connections.com. And if you really want our help, get in touch with the team at simonx.com. X is silent, so we just call it Simon. But honestly, Paul, they'll find me when they're ready to, and that's how that works. And I'm here to help. And if I can, let's do some stuff, make good things happen.
I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, Simon, stay on for a brief chat. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been one of the most awesome episodes of The Influencer's Edge. I hope you agree with it, with that evaluation.
Thank you, Paul.
We'll see you the next time on The Influencer's Edge. Simon, you stay on the line.
The Influencer's Edge is brought to you by the Rapid Sales Accelerator. If you're ready to skyrocket your sales by 30% or more in just 90 days, then you need to claim your free training right now. You'll learn 4 words that will compel your prospects to trust you like they were children within the first 3 to 5 minutes of any conversation across any platform in any medium. You'll learn how to give your prospects objection amnesia, to crush objections like, I need to talk to my spouse, or I need more time to think it over, or it's too expensive. And finally, you'll get a free recorded audio training that will install unbelievable attitudes for success and wipe out any limiting beliefs. So if you'd like to claim your free training now, go to www.paulrossbook.com. Do it before your competition does it now. Thank you for tuning in to the Influencer's Edge, where you get the latest breakthroughs, cutting-edge insights, tools, and techniques so you can leapfrog over the pack in sales, influence, and persuasion. Remember to visit our website at www.theinfluencersedge.com to enjoy even more great episodes like this one. We look forward to seeing you again on the Influencer's Edge Show.